What is up, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Content Creator Showdown. I'm your host, Jedi, and this is episode 5 of the Content Creator Showdown, where I bring together various influencers of the great game of Eternal and bring them into the spotlight for you to enjoy them. It gets to showcase both their entertainment value, their strategic intelligence, and their gameplay on the show. So I do encourage you to follow them on their own specific platforms to enjoy and consume their content, as well as sharing it with other people so we can spread the word about this great game of Eternal that we all enjoy playing thanks to Direwolf Digital. Of course, for season 1 of this show, we are doing a popper format, which means our competitors are only allowed to use commons to build their decks. Other than that, there's no restrictions other than the typical 4 ofs in a deck. Alright guys, this week is round 2 of season 1, so we get to go up against all the players that have battled each other at least once. So this is the battle of the 1-0s facing Cassandrith, one of the top limited streamers on Twitch, and Harmony, who has his own podcast called The Misplay that talks about not only misplays and being human on the game of Eternal, but as well as how to get better both competitively and casually. So, without further ado, let's meet our influencers.
Hey guys, Cassandrith here. I feel like I'm probably fairly known to the Eternal community by this point, but I do tons and tons of drafting, so doing construct is a little odd. I may have had some draft experience or maybe some preferences carry over into my constructed deck for Jedi's Pauper Challenge. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So as I was looking through things, I realized that cross-format All-Star Blood Nurse is a common, and we also knew that Horn of Plenty is also a common. So we're going to go ahead and try and take advantage of the Blood Nurse Arcanum Elite combo that already exists in the current draft format. See if it can kind of carry us to victory in this tournament. So clearly we have our early game with Blood Nurse and Arcanum Elite. It's going to kind of help us get a little bit of flying advantage right away. Devotee and Trailmaker are both going to help us ramp a little bit. I wanted cards that generated additional cards, kind of like pseudo card advantage. Amber Acolyte does a great job of that. Not only is it going to be a 2-1 for 3, but it's also going to draw a card in the sense of drawing power, ensuring that we make it to our turn 5 and beyond. Turn 5 we have our Haymakers, Infused Guardian, which is a phenomenal card in set 5 draft. Set 5 and 5.5. This card is just a phenomenal unit. It's really difficult to kill. It has endurance, so you can be both offensive and defensive, which is just a fantastic unit overall. Horn of Plenty is going to kind of lead us into the mid to late game, kind of buffing all of these ramp units and fixing units, allowing us to continue to apply pressure. Eventually, we'll just kind of chip them away with things like Archive Curators if we really need to, if the Blood Nurses don't get their job done. And then while we're going wide with Blood Nurses and Little Dorks, we have Mob Rule, which is just another, probably the best removal spell in the format, I'll say. And if you're only counting commons, I think Mob Rule is going to do a really good job kind of cleaning up problematic units. We also have Extract. It can take out kind of like the early game, kind of scout and ensure our draws are good. And then a card that I think might be good in this format, Cut Ties. While it is expensive, it is a unconditional removal spell that is fast. Why did I pick this over something like Eviscerate? I'm willing to pay 1 more power to have a fast spell that kills a unit. So that kind of gives you an idea. We rounded out at 27 power. Amber Coins kind of help us a little bit. They're not super necessary, but I think they're going to be beneficial to us to kind of go a little wider, give us a little extra use out of these mob rules. So deck's pretty straightforward, tons and tons of 4-ofs, and hopefully it works for me. And hopefully you get to say fly my pets 100,000 times during this event.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy JP, and I'm back for round 2. So I'm testing out some online personas now that I'm on YouTube, sort of a big deal. And that was Hype Teenager, and you know, they get a lot of subs, they get a lot of follows. But honestly, it's probably not a good look on me, so I apologize. My name is Jason, and I'm from the Misplay Podcast. You can find our Eternal podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. And our show has 2 goals. Hopefully, we're entertaining, and hopefully we can improve your play in some small way. And you know, that's where Mark comes in. Really, Mark drives a lot of those strategy discussions. Nobody listening to our podcast is gonna become a better player listening to me. But speaking of better players, speaking of great players, I'm playing Cassandra in round 2 today. And one of the things I really like about the ShowDown is that I get to interact and play with people that I wouldn't normally play against. Cassandra, like I'm not on his level, and this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna probably get rolled over. I'm probably gonna make some big misplay. Why would I say mistake? I am the Misplay podcast. That's a misplay in its own. I'm gonna make some misplay, and it's gonna live on YouTube forever. And I'm not gonna love it, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know. Good luck, Cassandra. Have fun, and let's go, boys. Let's drop that Blood Nurse combo on somebody. Let's go. I know. I gotta stop doing that. That is not a good look on me. That is not. I feel shame. Yeah, that's not. I should be normal.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now that you've met our content creators for this evening, let's find out if Xenon Blood Nurse Value can win out against Blood Nurse Bare Arms combo. And will Parmalee ever find out what persona fits him best? Stay tuned to find out, but for now, let's head down to the match and see how things go in Game 1. Parmalee keeps an opening hand of Argenport Banner, Token of Ambition, Scheme, Grenadin Drone, Combust, Corrupt and Umbran, and a Blood Nurse. Cassandra, who is on the play for Game 1, keeps a hand of Time Sigil, Shadow Sigil, Infused Guardian, Arcanum Elite, a Blood Nurse of his own, and Double Extract. Alright, for Game 1, Cassandra starts us off with Shadow Sigil followed by Blood Nurse, starting off very aggressive with his Blood Nurse, passing it back to Parmalee, or actually Parmalee's first turn. He deploys a Token of Ambition, clicking Fire Depleted, so not able to follow up with a turn 1 play. Cassandra plays his second power, attacks with the Blood Nurse, activating the Onslaught on the Arcanum Elite, buffing up the Blood Nurse to 1/3, now able to start spitting out a bunch of 1/1 flying bats with lifesteal, but Parmalee able to deploy a Grenadin Drone, giving him a unit, so Argenport Banner's turned on and decides to go ahead and use the torch while he can, taking out the Blood Nurse to no answer from Cassandra, slowing down his tempo. Cassandra obviously is not worried about it and decides that it's okay, attacks for 1, and still looking for power. If not, he's in a bit of trouble not having the proper influence or enough power. Probably unable to draw, so now it's funny, we're looking at double foil extracts on both sides of the hand, so that's kind of funny. Cassandra did not find power, instead drew another 5-drop, and sadly Parmalee drew another 1-drop, so he at least is able to continue to deploy units to his board, but not seeing much. Really wants to be able to go a lot wider than this, so we'll see where this is taking you. Finally, Cassandra draws a little bit of power in the form of Trailmaker, plays it, gets him a little bit closer to his fixing, and is now at 5 power. Parmalee decides to go ahead and attack for 3, leaving a Grenadin back to stop that Trailmaker from getting in some damage. Cassandra draws another Haymaker in Infused Guardian, but sadly is now choked on power, so is only able to make 1 play a turn, has to figure out which way he wants to go. He's kind of thinking about playing that Horn of Plenty, but decides to go with the blocker and plays the Infused Guardian. Sadly, Parmalee draws the other part of his combo, having both Blood Nurse and Bare Arms in his hand, but not having the power to do them. And so he decides to simply satisfy his or stem Cassandra's aggression by playing the Combust, destroying a Grenadin and the Infused Guardian, somewhat trading up, even though it is a 2-for-1, or I guess I should say 1.5 for 1. Anywho, Cassandra draws another Trailmaker. Now he's once again up to that point where he has to figure out where he has to, if he's going to choke his power or not. He decides to go ahead and play the Trailmaker for 2 and then extract to buff a little bit of life and get one of the Grenadins off the board, attacking in for 3. Parmalee still just can't find any kind of power. You really got to feel for the guy. I mean, he is making his best attempt, but Cassandra's up to 6, has all the influence he needs, goes ahead and drops the horn, getting in there with a 2-2, a 3-2, and another 3-2. Parmalee still surprisingly, even on 2 power, has some plays, decides to double block the Trailmaker, and then is figuring out whether he wants to torch the other one or not. Thinking about it, And believe it or not, I think he decides that he doesn't want to go down on too much health. He's hovering over it. And there we go. He goes ahead and burns it, taking it out, and actually surprisingly is a better move than he thinks, taking Cassandra down to 4 power, which means he cannot play his Infused Guardian or Horn next turn. Normally draws another 1-drop in the form of Oni Ronin, and figures out that, you know what, he needs to get on the board again, and decides to deploy the Blood Nurse despite still missing that 3rd power. Cassandra manages to somewhat top deck a power in the form of Amber Acolyte, so now he has to decide on whether he...
They're probably playing Bear Arms combo. They don't have enough power. They could suit it up, so we can go ahead and fetch power here and take a turn. Take kind of like a portion of a turn off. I think this is pretty acceptable. I would love to get them to use the Bear Arms here, so then we can extract and get
That's
a 2-for-1.
Unfortunate. I think I have to just take the approach and hope that he doesn't have removal.
But sadly, it's going to turn out to not work out for Parmalee very well, because Cassandra does have the removal spell, doesn't want the Blood Nurse going off, so uses the extract to get it off the board now. Parmalee's in a really tough spot. He decides to block with the Oni Ronin, trying to mitigate the damage taken, keep his life total as high as possible so he can keep... and draws a scheme. It almost feels like a non-game. I mean, you gotta give it to Parmalee. He's just been doing what he can on 2 power and still making a game of it, but Cassandra is now at the point where he's starting to drop haymakers, and you can tell by Parmalee's face that he's just not seeing it. Finally ran out of 2s and 1s to play. Cassandra's still now just throwing bombs down on the board when it comes to the Pauper format, keeping the Curator in hand to allow him to have the silence effect, and finally finish us off, Parmalee taking game 1. Cassandra keeps that opening hand of Xenon Banner, Double Time Sigil, Amber Coin, Trailmaker, Amethyst Acolyte, and Horn of Plenty. Parmalee, who is on the play for game 2, keeps Double Token of Ambition, Double Shadow Sigil, Lazy Fireman, Stone Scar Outfitter, and Bear Arms. Alright guys, for game 2, Parmalee starts us off playing a Token of Ambition, selecting Fire Influence, passing it back to Cassandra, who immediately plays his Banner, deciding he doesn't want to make a turn 1 play, giving him both Shadow and Time. Parmalee follows up the second token, selecting Justice, turning on all colors, having 2 Shadow Sigil in hand. Cassandra plays a Time Sigil, following up by a Trailmaker, giving him double influence of both his colors, so he is online and good to go. Parmalee follows it up with a turn 3 Lazy Fireman with the Bear Arms in hand. Can he get the combo off and swing in with a ginormous unit on turn 4? Guess we'll see. Nope, Cassandra reads the writing on the wall and plays a Curator to silence the Lioness. No cubbies coming out this turn. Parmalee decides whether he wants to Varus favor the Trailmaker, putting him down on power, or decide to play a 3/4 life-stealing Umbran. Plays the Umbran and pass the turn. Cassandra then draws a Shadow Sigil, decides to attack first, see what's going on, and then activating both the coin and the Arcanum Elite. First coins, throwing out a 1/1 Wisp, and then follows up with an Amethyst Acolyte, shrinking down the Umbran to a lonely 2/3 with Berserk. Follow-up play is the Arcanum Elite, pumping the Trailmaker, taking it out of Varus' favor range. So obviously Cassandra's being worried about his X1s, trying to keep his power alive, realizing how valuable it is to him. In a bold move, Parmalee decides to not only attack with the Umbran, but also Berserk it. Cassandra immediately snaps off the block with the Trailmaker and then follows it up with the Lonely Wisp, killing the Umbran, but that does leave the Trailmaker at 1 power, which Parmalee quickly takes it out, or dispatches it with the Varus favor, following up with a power drawn by the favor and playing the Lazy Fireman, now at 5 influence with all their, or 5 power with all their colors. Cassandra immediately plays a Horn of Plenty, pumping up the team, decides that he doesn't want to get fully aggressive here, and simply attacks with the 2/2 Arcanum Elite. Parmalee, doing the math in his head and seeing his opening, decides to go ahead and get one part of the combo off, placing Bear Arms on the Lazy Fireman, making it a 6/5, creating 2 1/1 charging Cubs, and then following it up with another Lazy Fireman, pumping up the primary one with the Bear Arms to a 7/6, which cannot be double blocked to death. It gets in, Cassandra decides not to block, going down to 20, so 20-25 at the moment, and Parmalee passes it back to Cassandra. Cassandra draws an Arcanum Elite, first decides to attack in the air, triggering the Onslaught, playing the Amber Acolyte, drawing a Shadow Sigil, and then playing the Arcanum Elite, bumping up the Amethyst Acolyte, to take the majority of their units out of torch range. After doing some serious math considerations, Parmalee decides to shift in the Stone Scar Outfitter, pumping the Fire Main to a 9-7, and then combusting the 2-1 Cubs to kill the 3-4 Amethyst Acolyte. Then after a moment of consideration and hesitation, decides to attack only with the 9-7, which Cassandra decides that he's at a high enough life total, doesn't want to lose any units just yet, and takes to the face, taking him down to 13. So 13 Cassandra, 23 Parmalee. Cassandra follows it up by snapping off another Horn of Plenty, pumping the team yet again, creating quite a formidable air force for himself, but decides only to attack. Decides to take it back and rather leave all his units on defense to avoid getting blown out. Parmalee top deck another Bear Arms. This is going to be a major problem for Cassandra. Decides he wants to look at what he's working with first and plays Scheme, and luckily enough draws another Scheme off the top because none of the other cards really seem to improve his position any. He's contemplating for a minute but sees that this is another opening, considering that Cassandra is hellbent or has no cards in hand. He plays the second Bear Arms on the second Lazy Fireman, creating 2 more Charging Cubs, which now pumps the initial and the secondary one, having an 11-9 and a 7-5, and swings with everything. Math is for blockers, and he's definitely making Cassandra do the math here. Cassandra double blocks the 7-5, single chump blocks the 11-9, and then trades off the 4-2 up against the 3-6. So losing 2 units on each side of the board, or correction, 3 units on Cassandra's side, 1 unit on Parmalee's side. Cassandra top decks a Curator that for the time being will silence the initial Fire Main, but it's still a lot of damage on the board. With that second Scheme, Cassandra is already sweating, knowing that if direct damage is on the board, he's just done. Parmalee top deck, or not top decks, but off the Scheme draws the Torch that will give him lethal as the other 2 Fire Cubs get in, taking Cassandra down to 3, and the Torch is going to finish him off, giving game 2 to Parmalee, thus putting us at 1-1. Parmalee keeps an opening hand of Shadow Sigil, Rakano Banner, Blood Nurse, Extract, Lazy Fire Main, Combust, and a Scavenge. Game 3, Cass is on the play and keeps an opening hand of Shadow Sigil, Time Sigil, Extract, Amber Acolyte, Trailmaker, and an Amber Coin. Alright, welcome back to Game 3, the tiebreaker for this match against Cassandra and Parmalee. Cassandra starts off by playing a Time Sigil and sends it over to Parmalee, who leads us off with a Token of Ambition, selecting Shadow Influence before sending it back over to Cassandra. Cassandra immediately plays a Shadow Sigil.
If they torch next turn, I'm pretty okay with that. So we're going to go ahead and play out the Trailmaker first.
This'll do the trick.
And decides to play a Trailmaker, selecting Time Influence. Parmalee plays a Rakano Banner, followed up by a Grenadin Drone, and passes it back to Cassandra. Cassandra immediately attacks with the 2-1 Trailmaker into 2 Grenadins, which seems a little suspicious, but Parmalee, not willing to pass up a half a card in a positive trade, decides to go ahead and block, and of course the Trailmaker bites the bullet to the Grenadin. Cassandra activates the Onslaught ability on the Amber Coin, making a 1-1 Wisp, followed up by an Amber Acolyte that picks up a Shadow Sigil for Cassandra. Parmalee plays a Shadow Sigil, his 3rd power of the game, and then follows it up with the 3-2 Lazy Fire Main with Renown. Cassandra plays his 4th power, not really wanting to have that Lazy Fire Main go crazy, decides to take it out with an Extract, and then swings once again. Interesting, being so aggressive in the plays here. Parmalee blocks the 2-1 Acolyte with the Grenadin Drone, thus removing it, taking 1 and passing it back. Probably opens up with a Scavenge and then a Granite Waystone for no value. Cassandra plays a Devotee for full value, not shifting it. Attacks with the Wisp, getting in for 1. Scores 23-28 in Cassandra's favor. Probably draws a Scheme off the top of his deck and decides, let's go ahead and dig. Doesn't like what his hand's got going on, and sees Lazy Fireman, 2 Torches, and another Scheme. Decides to go for the Torch, being able to remove the Devotee to put him off of power as well as a solid blocker. But decides to wait and passes it back instead. Cassandra plays a Time Sigil, putting him up at 7, and decides to attack with the Wisp, again it being a free attack. Getting in for 1, putting Parmley down to 22.
Do we extract? The board is not really in a position that we're too concerned. I feel like they would have torched this if they had the torch, so I really don't think it's torch.
I don't really want him to play Nurse and get it big, since I'm not attacking.
Because torch would allow them to start attacking with all these rats, and the trade would be very good for them.
Yeah, there's no rush.
Both players showing some immense patience with their Blood Nurses. Parmley had drawn an Outfitter and decides to simply pass the turn back to Cassandrath. Cassandrath once again swings in for 1 and is trying to debate if they want to do anything, and they don't, not even playing their power, sending it back to Parmley. This is an interesting standoff between these two players. Parmley top decks the Corrupted Umber and decides that's good enough to play and throws it down on the board. Being a little risky, interesting, they didn't want to try to play something that allowed them to leave up the Torch to play around certain removal spells, but hey, that's why these two are in the matchup playing the game they're playing. So the top deck's a good one with a 1/4 Curator that silences the Umbran and sends it back over to Parmley, not attacking anymore. Parmley draws their 5th power and plays the Stonescar Outfitter shifted, leaving up 1 power for Torch, pumping the rest of the team by 1 attack, and Parmley decides to attack with just the Umbran. The Umbran gets through, taking Cassandra's down to 24. 24-21 are the life totals. Parmley with no follow-up play in the Combust, Blood Nurse, or Torch, and sends it back over to Cassandrath, who draws a Shadow Sigil. Decides this is okay enough to play, plays the Shadow Sigil, putting him up to 8 power, 4 and 4. Obviously this is just a pauper format, so obelisks are not in the format, simply Horn of Plenty, so he doesn't have to worry about a +2 out of nowhere. Extract comes down, taking out a lonely 2/1 rat, which is quite interesting. And Cassandra decides to be aggressive and swing in with the 1/1 and the 1/4 flyer, taking Parmley down to 19. Not having a follow-up play that they're comfortable with, they send it back. Parmley debates about whether he wants to use that Torch on his end step or not, and decides not to. But he top deck another Corrupted Umbran. So first line of order is to attack with the 4/4, see what the actions are. No blocks from Cassandra, goes down to 23, and Parmley follows up with the second Umbran. This one being a 4/4 Berserk with a lifesteal. Cassandra considers the mob rule and realizes he can't take it out, and so simply has to take it. Top deck the Cut Eyes though, which is a fast spell that is unconditional removal. So he plays the Blood Nurse pre-combat, sends in with the Curator. Parmley is trying to figure out if this is bait or not and decides he can't pass up a chance and torches the 1/1 Blood Nurse. In response, mob rule comes down, taking out the Umbran. So the bait worked out. He did lose his Blood Nurse, though Blood Nurse is not part of a combo for Cassandrath, and so taking out the biggest threat on the board with the mob roll finally, still keeping Cut Ties in his hand. Parmley shakes his head a little bit, but still a decent trade. Parmley decides to start getting really aggressive here, attacking with the 2/1 rats as well as the Umbran that is silenced. Of course, Cassandra takes the easy block there with the 1/3 Devotee, and Parmley devours the blocked rat. He loses both rats in the trade, and Cassandra loses just the 1/1 Wisp, but he gains 2 cards, drawing a Scavenge and a Bare Arms. He schemes for the last thing of his turn, debating between Grenadindrone, Oni Ronin, and Devour, as well as a Shadow Sigil, and solidifies his pick with the Devour before sending it back to Cassandrath. Cassandra, with some solid plays off the top of his deck, drew another Curator that's going to silence any other threats that should come down for Parmley. Parmley once again still showing extreme patience and restraint with the Blood Nurse in his hand now that he has the combo. The Stone Scar Outfitter finally finally emerges from being shifted. So he has a 2-3 unblockable and a 4-4 silence that he's trying to figure out if he wants to go in with. Cut Ties comes down, taking out the attempting to take out the Umbran, but the second Devourer that Parmley drew off the scheme does its work, sacrificing the Outfitter in response, drawing 2 cards. So now he drew an Extract and a Granite Waystone off of that. Obviously the Umbran bounced off the Curator and neither of them dying, so Parmley has some plays to make here. Decides to go ahead and play the Waystone, not getting the Granite in, and playing the Extract to finish taking out the Curator. He sees another Extract on top, and I believe the animation says he leaves it on top, but we'll find out. Amethyst Acolyte off the top for Cassandra. Man, I'm telling you, he is drawing like a pro this game. Comes down, puts the -1/-1 on the Umbra, making it a 2-3, so no good attacks for Parmley here. And yes, it looks like he did top the Extract, so now he is strongly considering the Blood Nurse combo here.
We have not found a horn in all of these cards, which is kind of concerning.
Decides to go ahead and pull the trigger on the Blood Nurse combo, dropping the Blood Nurse, putting the Bare Arms on it, and immediately activating it for at least 1. That's all the power he has right now, so he is going to pass it back to Cassandra, which formally has the answer in hand with the Archive Curator, thus silencing the combo for Parmley, and the follow-up Amethyst Acolyte to take out the Bat. So negating the entire combo for Parmley. Parmley draws a Rakano Banner, immediately playing it on a board, giving him 7 power, all his colors turned on. He's contemplating using the Farah's Favor to take out the Acolyte. He didn't do it last turn. Let's see if he decides to pull the trigger on it this turn. He could also combo it off against the Curator, taking the biggest blocker off the board if he combos it with the Extract, dealing 4 damage to the Curator, getting off the board, as well as giving him a Shadow Sigil and a Scout. Decides he'd rather go ahead and just take the Amethyst Acolyte off the board, leaving Cassandra with the 1-3, a 2-1, and a 1-4. Parmley, being extremely reserved, decides not to play anything else from his hand, sending it back to Cassandra. He tops deck, finally he gets a little bit of reprieve, or finally gets to see what everyone else's luck is like, and draws a Shadow Sigil, and simply has to attack for 1 in the air and pass it back. Parmley, with the Extract, takes out the 2-1 Amethyst Acolyte, and then swings in with the team, dealing 4 to Cassandra, taking him down to 15, and plays an Oni Ronin. Horn of Plenty off the top, pumps the team to a 2-4 and a 2-5, and he leaves them both on defense. It's understanding that he is no longer the beatdown until he draws a little bit better. Parmley picks up another Vara's Favor, missing the window. He gets aggressive here and attacks with the 4-2 as well as the 2-1 Ronin. Of course, Cassandra, starting to see the pressure, decides to block both, and luckily takes the Curator down to 1 health, so the Favor off the top can kill the Curator, and follows it up with the Extract to kill the Devotee, clearing the board for Cassandra. Now he feels a little more comfortable and decides to play the Scavenge. So now Cassandra top decks another power, sadly, keeps it in hand and sends it back to Parmley, who immediately attacks with all 3 units, dealing 5 to Cassandra, taking him down to 10. This is looking not so well for our hero, ladies and gentlemen. Cassandra draws another Horn of the Plenty, pumping his team that is non-existent. Parmley swings in again for 5, taking Cassandra down to 5. He needs something here. Parmley's happy. You see a smile from him. He's kind of feeling like he could taste the blood in the water. Let's see if he gets there. But Amethyst Acolyte off the top for Cassandra is not only able to take out a rat, but also give him a blocker big enough to stop the Umbran. So the 4-3 now is pumped after 2 horns, has stonewalled some of Parmley's aggression. Let's see what he's going to do here. He decides to play the drone, giving him 2 units, plays the combust to kill the Amethyst, and getting in for 4, taking Cassandra down to 1, ladies and gentlemen. Can Cassandra do something about this? And he does. He tops decks a Blood Nurse to then immediately twist it to get him a 3/3 Flying Life Steal Bat. And now Parmley is just feeling the pressure swing. So close. Cassandra was at 1. He's at 1 right now, but he just can't figure out a way to get past this wall of lifelink flyers. Those double horn aplenty just end up coming in through at the right time. Literally, if they were not lifesteal any other unit, then Parmley would have had lethal on the board, and now he's stressing it, trying to figure out what to do. Cassandra is not feeling comfortable in his position either, trying to figure out what Parmley could have in his hand. Parmley uses a rat to sacrifice 2 combust to take out one of the bats, but that's still not going to give him a good window to get in there and push damage. So what is he going to do from here? Not seeing a good window, he just calls it in and passes it over to Cassandra. Cassandra top decks, there we go again, Extract coming down, gaining him a little bit of life, putting him up to 4, taking out the Umbran, the 2/3 Umbran, and he immediately swings with both bats, putting him back up to 10, even without blockers. He's feeling a lot more comfortable. Parmley attacks with the drone and the rat, taking him back down to 7, but 2 attacks from the bat bump him back up to 13. This is a losing battle for Parmley right now. He's feeling the pressure. That bear arm sitting in his hand, not doing anything, while Cassandra's life total slowly increases while his slowly dwindles. Arcanum Elite off the top with Onslaught Trigger gives him another 3/3 blocker, as well as pumping a bat to 3/5 and gaining him some life. Things are looking very bleak for Parmley here. He did top deck a Scavenge that does give him 3 units or the bear arms he can do in 1 turn, but I don't think that's going to be enough to do it. Like, just those lifesteal bats, double horns coming through, really kind of outclassing the Cassandra or Parmley's unit. It's just, you hate to see it. You hate to see it to come to this when he was so close. He had the smile. You thought he was going to take it. Now he's feeling the pressure. Cassandra kind of feeling a little more comfortable in his posture. Parmley looking a little less comfortable, really not wanting to see this game slip through his fingers. Having to pass yet another turn simply sends it back, and Cassandra just couldn't A-space any quicker, dealing 9, gaining 6, and then drops a 6/6 pumped up to a 7/7 infused Guardian. And Parmley just top decks power, reading the writing on the wall, and simply has to call it in. Cassandra, with the top deck challenge, ended up taking it over, sadly and frustratingly, giving the match game set 2-1 to Cassandra.
Brutal.
Wow, talk about some nail-biting action till the very end. That was one intense game 3. Let me know in the comments below if you thought Cassandra was going to be able to pull this game off or not, or if you thought Parmley had it all along. But that was a crazy amount of patience demonstrated by both players, knowing when to hold back, when to deploy their units, when to use their removal spells. And this is Pauper, ladies and gentlemen. No rares, no uncommons, no legendaries, strictly limited commons. And these guys are putting out some insane strategic plays. Loved the gameplay between both players. Definitely great content creators. So remember to check them out, ladies and gentlemen. The Cassandra at twitch.tv/Cassandra that you'll see down below, as well as checking out Parmley on his podcast, The Misplay. You can catch them on Twitter up above. That's right, guys. So with the win, this moves Cassandra to our first 2-0 content creator in the showdown, keeping him in the winner's bracket, and Parmley falling to a 1-1 record takes him down to the not so winning bracket. Both players will be back again next round to continue to compete to be crowned the top most interesting influencer on the Content Creator Showdown. So once again, I do encourage you guys to like, share, follow, do all those things for these great content creators that are taking time out of their day to make this stuff for you on a regular basis, and share this wonderful game of Eternal with everyone so we can increase it in popularity. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Once again, I am Jedi with Eternal Journey Podcast. You can catch me streaming live every Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. And of course, you can subscribe to this channel so you get notified whenever the content creator episode that's next up comes out. But until next time, guys, happy gaming.